All right, thanks for joining us, guys. As you know, we've done a few of these interviews before. As you know, at the beginning of the season, we had a lot of squad changes and a lot of players coming in and going out. So this is an opportunity for the fans who don't always, stay after and get to meet you properly, to put a face to a name and just hear a little bit about you and just to get to know you. So both of you are both signings that Toasty's made this season, aren't they? So some of the other players we've had in are ones that Toasty inherited. So just a little bit about the signing process and what made you want to join the club. So Charlie?
I've known Toasty, well, we've both known Toasty for years. So it was kind of one of those no-brainers, really. Greenside actually gave me a message, I think at the start of the season, and said, do I fancy it? I was like, probably not yet, mate. I'm just kind of focused on teaching at the minute. Didn't really fancy the travel, as a lot of people didn't want to sign, and that was a lot of reasons that people left, wasn't it? But kind of got to mid-season, and he gave me another message, said, do you fancy it now? And I was like, you know what, yeah, settled in my job, so why not? And then I know exactly what Toasty's about. Obviously knew a lot of the lads already. Louis was already here, Slade was here, a few others here who I knew before as well, and it was kind of, it was a no-brainer. I was ready to kind of step forward again and test myself.
Excellent. So you both had spells here before as well, haven't you? You both been through the DESA process, which we'll come on to later. So Louis, what made you want to come back to the club?
I think, well, like Charlie said, because we worked with Toasty a long time ago, and we had a fair amount of success, really. We got to a National Cup final. And I think anyone that's played for him will know how loyal he is to people. And I think, so when he texted me and rang me and said, do you want to come over? It was fairly easy. And just the fact that I basically grew up at the club, it was easy to say yeah, really. Wanted to come back and be a part of it and try and keep the club in the level and help build for the future, really. Yeah,
so like I say, you've both been part of the DESA programme before, so you're both familiar with the surroundings of the club. Yeah. In fact, congratulations, you passed your 50th appearance for the club as well, so it's the first time we could say that on camera, so congratulations. That was a few games ago now.
Yeah, thank you.
So you've had, how many spells have you had as a first team player at Dereham?
2. I had one when I was at DESA, and then whenever I came home from America, I'd play a few games, sort of around Christmas. But I never played for any other clubs in between that, so I sort of count that as one, really. And then now I've just come back, yeah.
And for anyone who doesn't know, who's probably seen your name on the team sheet and think, is there any relation? You are obviously related to one of our ex-managers as well, aren't you?
Yeah, so my dad was manager for a long time. Like I said, I sort of grew up, so when I was, my earliest memories of football being about 3 years old and watching Dad play for Dereham on the rec. So that's probably my earliest memory of football. And then so Dad was a player, and then he went away to Kings Lynn to start his managing and coaching, and then came back as first team manager when I was about 11, 12. So yeah, I spent a lot of time here as a kid.
So you know what the club's all about the community spirit, what we're trying to achieve, the size of the club and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, Dereham's obviously a one-club town. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there are the youth organisations, but in terms of a senior outfit, we're a one-club town, so we've always had really, really good support. Mm-hmm. Dereham, I remember being a young player, it's sort of like grassroots days, and Dereham was always the club that people wanted to play for. So I was sort of really lucky that I was playing here, and then also the fact that my dad was manager, it was really, really good to be a young person here at that time, really.
Yeah, and that's perfect if you're familiar with the area and you've got the connection of your dad being here and you've both been through the DESA process. So Charlie, this is your second spell as a first team player here as well, isn't it?
Yeah. Similar to Louis, I had a couple of opportunities when I was at DESA, but kind of I actually said, can I play for the Resis when I was at DESA, so I didn't kind of ruin my chances of being ineligible to play in America, because there's some rules with certain different things in America. But yeah, so it's technically my second spell. Yeah, when I came back from America, came back for a brief period when I was, exploring that professional route, which obviously clearly wasn't good enough. So then bounced at a few clubs similar to Louis and kind of come back home, really.
So how have you found how do you feel the club's evolved since your first spell here? So not just the team and obviously playing a different league, but But infrastructure, have you found it's the club's moving on since you were
Yeah,
last
definitely.
year?
It's certainly kind of come back to its roots in a way. They've really, like this shows it, doing these interviews, things like this. They've really tried to make that connection with the community, and I think that's the biggest thing, especially for non-league clubs. You need to be involved with that community. I think that's been a massive push, and you can see that not only being part of the club, but from the outside looking in.
It's like Louis says, it's a one-team town, isn't it? Yeah. So it's important that to maintain a loyal and local fan base, because we're not going to get fans from all over the country like Premier League clubs. So it's important that we strengthen that tie with everybody. So obviously, completely different dressing rooms to your first spells here. Comparing, the feeling around the dressing room and the banter and the camaraderie and the togetherness. How do you feel? Do you feel it's much better now, or is it the same as before?
Different.
Yeah, it's different. There's no insult or kind of negativity towards the lads who were here before, but it is sometimes clubs need fresh faces. They need a kind of a rebuild, and that's what we're going through now. The lads who were here before have done the club well. They've, one of the biggest sides in Norfolk, other than Kings Lynn and Norwich. They've done well to keep us at step 4 for the amount of years they've done. That they did. So hats off to them. But sometimes again with us getting moved over to that league, it kind of provided that opportunity to get new faces in, get a new crowd in. And I think we're really beginning, or Tosti's now really beginning to get the people he wants in the club. And hopefully we can do the job this year, get out of those playoff relegation zone, make sure we stay in this league and push on next year and
win the cup.
Yeah, exactly. And win the Senior Cup. And I think we've got the squad to do that. But it's just making sure that we are staying together as a team, which I think we've done really well. We've faced a lot of adversity this year, especially over recent months since Christmas. And yeah, I think we've done well to keep our heads in the game, and we can now push on now.
Yeah. So you said, Louis, before that you and Charlie that you knew a lot of the players. You mentioned Chris Greenslade from your time as a youth player. But there's been a lot of signings coming into the club, from outside of Norfolk, people like Richard and Swifty. How do you feel they've been integrated into this club? And as sort of a knock on to how harmonious the change room is, do you think that is it an accepting dressing room for people like that? Because we've got experienced local players like you two, youth players, people like Kai, and players coming in from different areas, all at the same time as the club are fighting a little bit for points.
Yeah, I think we are. I think we can say it about ourselves. We are a really welcoming dressing room. Anyone who comes in, everyone makes sure they introduce themselves. It's standard stuff that people forget to do. And I think we make sure we do things like that.
The thing is, sorry, I was going to say, the thing is, usually you build teams over a 2, 3, 4, 5 year period. So then you get you'll have 7 or 8 that have been in the dressing room for a sustained period of time. And then you have certain...
Clicks.
No, not clear. I think you have certain... there's a culture already established. Whereas I think the hardest thing for us this year is because we're a group that have come from different levels of football, different areas of the country, with different ages. We've had to really gel as the season's gone on, and almost create a new culture. People are used to different things.
We've been forced to do it, haven't we? So we've had no choice but to do it. And I think sometimes you need that, as opposed to sometimes it can be quite easy just to kind of trot along. People from the local area come in, everyone knows everyone. Whereas we've been forced to make sure that we make those relationships and connections with each other.
Yeah, and it's shown amongst the fan base, how that you guys are more than willing to integrate with us when on the coach or after a game, doing stuff like this as well. There's definitely, it gets mentioned in the stands all the time, there's a palpable difference that you can feel around the club, that the players aren't, are more approachable for us as well. So, because we're all the same, aren't we? We all want the club to move in the same direction. Yeah. So we said that you've both played as local footballers around Norfolk. So just for those who haven't seen you around the other clubs, just apart from playing at Dessa and here, we'll start with you, Louis. What other clubs have you played for, and where did you come from here?
Well, I lived in the Midlands. So when I came home from America in 2019, I lived in the Midlands for a little while. So I played up there, played step 4 football up there, which is I played in this league actually, which was. Having only played my step 4 football at Dereham previously in the Ishmin, it was a different type of football. So it was a really good experience. And then last year I was at Fakenham, which was brilliant, really, really good. Proper football club with some really good people, really, really good. But then in the summer, I was really fortunate to get a job at a school in Ipswich, where I'm working now. So I actually signed for Dereham Town in the summer. And then I remember I literally signed for Bury, and then 5 days later, Toasty rang me without knowing that I signed for Bury. So at the time, it wasn't really possible for me to come back. But when I spoke to him again in October, it was sort of, like I said earlier, really easy. So late October, I think it was. It was really easy. So so I feel like I've sort of settled a bit now. It's been tough to settle. I've sort of moved to different areas, but I feel like I'm settled, and it's probably helping me enjoy my football a little bit more.
You can't hear the people watching this, obviously, but they're still booing after you mentioned Bury. So Charlie, how about you? I actually saw you play once as a non-Dereham player once. So I went to an FA Vars game against Bitton when you were a Wroxham player.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember that game, but you got beat 4-0 and got a red card.
Yes, that was my last game. That was my last game for the first team. Yeah, terrible experience. Similar to Louis, I've kind of bounced around a bit, probably a bit more than Louis actually. So when I came home from America, I was at Dereham and I was trying to go for those sort of trials and whatnot. And that was when Gussie and Ollie Willis were managers. And they said, you can just play for us intermittently when you're back and whatnot. And inevitably, as football is, they found that what worked for them. So when I came back about December time, they said, well, we've kind of got no space for you because we've found the team that works, found the team you can commit. And I was like, fair enough. That's, they're the managers, is what it is. So I actually went to Wroxham. And that's where two of my best mates were. I knew the lads there. They were a lovely club. Probably get fined for saying that. So I was there for a year. Had quite a good season there. And then the stay market came knocking. I was in the process of going to my teacher's training, so I didn't have much money at the time. And when they came knocking with offering the silly amounts that they were at the time, which to be fair to them, they've done it well. They've now got to step 4. They're a really nice club, all the time for them in the world. Went to them for a bit. The travel was just too much, so I left them. Went to Norwich United. Again, lovely club, lovely group of lads. Steve Easter is a great guy as well, just didn't suit their style of play. So I went on loan to CBS. And they, again, lovely club. Again, great group of lads as well. Did really well in that first or that half of the season that I played for them. And then was really fortunate to be given the captaincy there as well, and at the start of this season. And that's when, I guess Green Slade and Toasty both were kind of pestering me throughout at differing points throughout the season, saying, do you want to come? And I was like, yeah. In the end, I thought, I'm ready to test myself again. I was settled in my teaching job, and the time was right, and hopefully can be here for many years to come. Yeah,
that's important. You both mentioned that you teach for a living, and that you spent a lot of time in different areas of the country. Now that we play in the Northern Premier League as well, that you played in before, is the fact that you're more settled in your jobs now, and you've completed all your courses, and you're working full time here, and you've got more capacity to do the travelling. It's been settled in your own lives.
It's a massive factor. I think that's what some people don't realise from the outside looking in, especially for people such as ourselves who have bounced around a bit over the past few years. It was just trying to make sure that we can fund ourselves to begin with, and be able to live whilst we're doing teacher training, because as PE teachers you don't get paid for that training year, whereas other subjects do. But we've just we've now kind of come back home, and we can hopefully both be here for a long time.
But what a lot of people don't realise looking in, casual supporters are people who don't speak to players often. The conception is that you get paid to play football, so you should make time in your life to play football, but it's not that easy, is it?
It's certainly a priority for me. I love my football, and it's you view it as a second job almost. But the reason I play it is because I love playing football, and that's I think the same for you, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I do. But to be honest, I do think we're at a level of football that keeps us honest. So if we do take liberties, if we don't take care of ourselves outside of training, and watch what we eat and things like that, then
you get found out.
You do get found out. And I mean, you're an incredible athlete. I'm not so blessed. I'm not so blessed. So I do it for me personally. It would be like I would really get found out if I wasn't doing the extra little bits. But but I think, to be honest, playing at a level of football that does keep you honest is what engages, what motivates.
100%.
Yeah, so
Yeah, you know if you're not putting the work in, you will get found out. So
yeah, sort of especially in this league as well, because my next question was going to be about the differences that you've encountered in the Northern Premier League as opposed to the Isthmian League or playing Norfolk football. I know you said you played in this league. Who did you play for before? In this?
Market Drayton Town.
Oh, they're not in this anymore.
No.
So, how have you found, or has there been a difference in your case in the physicality of this league? And Charlie, how have you found this league compared to playing Norfolk football?
It's a complete stark contrast. Like there is no comparison to it. You've got meatheads in centre mid who will happily run through a brick wall every game against you, and you don't necessarily get that even at the step 4 in the other league. They're probably better footballers in the other technically definitely better footballers. Yeah. But these guys know their game in this league, and they know how to win games on terrible pitches. Yeah. Which is unfortunately in the Midlands. There's a lot of terrible pitches. Yeah,
and a lot more plastic pitches I've noticed as well.
Yeah, there is. So it's been a massive learning process, really. Yeah. If I'm honest, I've probably still not adjusted completely to it. But again, that takes time. Hopefully we can.
As part of that adjustment, and for fans who don't know you as well as people who've seen you play at other clubs and around as often as me and some of our more regular fans have. What's your? I'll start with you, Louis. What's your most comfortable position? Because you've played in a couple of positions during this season, but when we've seen you before, I remember you playing a more wide role when you were a younger player.
Yeah.
So where's your more comfortable position now? What do you see yourself as? If you're a Football Manager, what would be your position?
To be honest, anywhere in midfield.
Yeah.
I'd probably play myself as an 8, so sort of a more box-to-box midfield player. But to be honest, it's being in this league, you're against so many different types of oppositions on a 3G pitch one week, on a mud heap the next. So you have to be a little bit adaptable. So this season I have played wide at times. I have played as a deep midfielder at times. I've played as an attacking midfielder at times. And if I had to pick one, it would be an 8, centre midfield. Trying to affect it at both ends, really.
Well, you scored the best goal I've ever seen you score so far this season.
The only goal I've scored. But I was quite pleased with that one.
Yeah, good. So, and Charlie, what position do you see yourself as? Because in your first spell and in so far in this spell, you haven't had much company up front, have you, from other players in the squad? So you found yourself as quite a lone striker sometimes?
Yeah, I do enjoy that role, but given I get support from the midfield. But I'd definitely say my best position is striker, and I've played in loads of different systems, and I don't mind doing whatever system we might play. I've always been quite versatile. I mean, I only became a striker when I was 19. I was a centre back and then a winger, then a striker. So kind of in a way still perfecting my trade or trying to understand my role at times, especially when I'm playing in loads of new systems. But I can play on the wing. I can play in the 10 sometimes as well. But certainly my best position is that number 9. Yeah. But again, I've played in front threes that are really interchangeable, where I can go on the wing for 5 minutes and someone will be in the centre. They're probably the best teams I've played in terms of where the front three can play anywhere along that, and they just kind of fill in. Yeah. Especially when whoever's close to the ball fills in defensive.
Well, that versatility will be handy now because we've got some good attacking options now, but we've made some other signings since you signed on. So Matt Blake's obviously signed. So that being interchangeable, I suppose, will be very handy.
100%, and there's competition now. I think that's what Tosi's been trying to create. There's at least 2 or 3 players who can play in each position, and that's very healthy to have within a team. Yeah. And I think you have to have that if you're going to progress and as a team and individually. Yeah. So it's really good that people are wanting to come to the club, and we've got some really good signings. I think Oscar and Jaden, that's it. Jaden, I was going to say Austin then.
Ollie Young's obviously signed.
Ollie Young as well. Yeah, he's a great lad. Another versatile player. And then we've had Steely and Matt Blake come in over the past couple of weeks. So we've made some really good signings, and we're now officially kind of really starting to gel. And hopefully we can get ourselves out of those relegation spots with those new lads.
But you haven't had that same luxury of having, in midfield, we've had a lot of injuries, haven't we? And a lot of absences for other reasons and stuff like that. For instance, Kai going to America and then coming back. So you've had to be equally as versatile, haven't you? And to compete against bigger lads and well set up midfields in midfield. Has that been more difficult for you? There seems to have been more of a conveyor belt of midfielders going in and out of the club. With injuries to people like George Green and stuff like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's been difficult. It's just part of football, really. There's been games where me and Gazza have had to play as two holding midfielders, and in this league, that's two players like me and Gaz unseen of playing holding midfield. But we've just and again, it's a part of that, probably that growing process from the start of the season when a lot of players left and Toasty's still trying to figure out what pieces he needs, and he's adjusting as we go along. Yeah. We've just had to kind of do the best we can. But in fairness, you look at Gaz, for example, and he gets a bit of stick in the dressing room because people say at the start of the season he was getting knocked about a little bit. But you see how he's progressed in the season, how playing at this level of football and having to deal with those challenges has improved him as a player. Yeah,
just that increased level of effort. We do see nothing but effort from all of our midfield, from our whole squad. So it's been a challenge, but I think something that we're adapting to well as we go through the season. So if you guys had your own personal preference, because obviously we're going to stay as a Step 4 club. So if you would you rather play? If travel wasn't an option, would you rather play in this league and carry on the development you've mentioned there, or would you rather? Do you see yourself performing better in as you say, a slightly more technical league back in the Isthmian?
I don't think
tough question. I don't think. Yeah, honestly, I don't really think it matters. I think, unfortunately, travel is the issue. Doing 3 hours on a Tuesday night, you're always going to be on the back foot from the start, whether you think about it or not, is subconsciously in your mind. But I think for the fact that you've got all these local derbies that we can have at this level, I think this other league, you've got your Roxmans, your Lowestoffs, your Gorstons. We can have very, very entertaining games for us and the fans against those teams and get a good turnout and have some really good games against them. So I think I would personally say the other league for that reason, because we've got those rivalries that we have already.
Louis, are you the same or?
We're obviously looking forward to the 4th of April, aren't we?
Yeah.
Which would be a really good occasion. Nice to have a local derby, like Charlie says. I think that's probably what we've been missing this year is that local aspect to it. Yeah. To be fair, like people speak about the travelling in this league, and I don't.
Saturdays are football anyway.
Tuesdays are hard. Tuesdays are hard, but Saturdays are for football. So, getting on a bus at 10, half 10, is what it is. And to be honest, like we said earlier, we're gelling really well. So that time spent on the bus has probably helped us in some ways, because being a new team, we need to spend time together. We need to form relationships with each other and form that bond and create that culture. So the time on the bus has probably had its benefits as well. Yeah. I don't. Other than that, we'll just.
Well, we thought the same as fans as well. We're Saturdays are for football for us as well. So we're quite happy to. The travelling. That's actually a bit of an adventure for some of our fans. We quite like going. Yeah. So just finally, then, is there a message that you want to give to the fans, Louis first?
Well, thanks. To be honest, local football is increasingly well supported, but we're very, very lucky here to have supporters that are here every week, singing and dancing and drumming and drinking. Yeah. It's unbelievable. It is. There's been times this season in the last 10 minutes where it's really pushed us on, helped us. You think Sutton Coldfield at home is the one that automatically comes to mind. Yeah. And obviously we want to assure them that there's 20 odd players in that dressing room, all of us that are fully committed to keeping us in the league, and that's all we need to say, really.
Charlie?
So in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest one is also thank you for sticking with the club as a whole when we went through that kind of crappy period in the summer. I think it was it could be very easy for players, management, fans, people at the club to see, oh, it's a sinking ship now. Let's jump. But I think a lot of you guys, including yourself, have stuck with the program, and that's been a massive, a massive. I don't know what the word is really. Boost. Massive boost.
Well, we've been incentivised as well. Not only are we signing good footballers like you guys, and we've all got a very positive attitude, and your aspiration. Normally, players' aspirations aren't necessarily entwined with fans' ones, but this season I think they are. Footballers should want more than by your nature. You should want to achieve more constantly as sportsmen. But this season, I think we've all been very realistic, haven't we? And we've all had similar ambitions. And we've also been very entertained by your Rick Astley impression on the coach as well. For those who got to see it, Charlie Clarke is an excellent Rick Astley impersonator. Yeah. Have you done your song yet, Lou? What did you sing?
Yeah, I sang, is it American Boy by Estelle and Kanye West?
You did, yes, correct.
Yeah, a cappella as well.
Yeah.
Decent.
Good work.
Right, yeah.
There's no pressure to go over that again today. But gents, thank you very much for joining us on this interview. And thanks for the message to the fans as well.
Yeah,
Cheers.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.